Well, welcome and thank you for joining us today for the professional development series, Cultivating Resilience During Times of Stress. This session will be recorded and we will be sharing it with attendees, and it'll also be available on the Chamber's website. We are able to provide this offering to our members free of charge because of the generosity of our sponsor, the College of St. Scholastica, Stender School of Business and Technology. It is my honor to introduce our speaker today, Stacey Johnston. Stacy is a skilled HR, thought leader, trainer, and in the trenches practitioner, passionate about the intersection of HR and employee well-being. She firmly believes HR practices and policies either support or sabotage employee engagement, well-being, and retention, which of course directly impacts productivity and profits. Stacy's number one goal for being here today is to give you tips and tools to bolster your resilience and enhance your well-being. Please join me in welcoming Stacy. I'll turn it over to you, Stacy. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. Welcome, everyone. Thanks for that warm welcome, Bailey. I'm so excited to be here. So we are talking about resilience, and I tell you, this is a really great timing for this conversation. So you may be feeling a little bit drained. If you're anything like me, you're noticing that the last year, it's starting to add up, and you might feel a little bit exhausted. So my mission today is to talk about strategies you can use to better understand how to build up that resilience reservoir that you got. And believe me, it is there. But first of all, let's start off with something that I call a micro practice, and it's a moment to arrive. So you have already had a busy morning, and sometimes we arrive at our meeting and half of our brain is still in our previous meeting, or half of our brain is planning for the next meeting or wondering what we need to pick up at the grocery store. And so this really is an invitation for you to just take a moment and completely be present. We have a short time to spend together today, and this is just an opportunity to let all that go. It'll be waiting for you when we're done. And so let's just take a moment right now, and feel free to close your eyes if you would like, or keep your eyes open, whatever works for you. And just take a deep breath in. Let your chest expand, let your belly lift, and exhale. And deep breath in, and your chest expand. Let your belly lift, maybe even lift your shoulders up towards your ears. And as you exhale, soften your shoulders, soften any tension that you might find lingering at your jaw. And then one more time together. Inhale, let your chest lift, your belly expand. And exhale, let any tension just melt away. And tune out those notifications, your phone, the other distractions that you have, an invitation to just be fully present together for this next hour for our conversation, really feeding our own well-being. So we're here to talk about resilience. What is this thing called resilience? And there's lots of different explanations for it, but I like to think of it as your ability to bounce back from the inevitable trials and tribulations of life, right? None of us escapes the ups and downs, like none of us escapes the sadness, the tragedy. And so those things are inevitable in life, and resilience is your ability to bounce back from those inevitable ups and downs of life. And I'm here to tell you some really, really great news is that you have an incredible reservoir of resilience. You are strong, you are resilient, you are adaptable. And so really what we are doing here today is it's just some reminders of the things that we do that drain that reservoir of resilience, and the things that we can do to make sure that we fill our reservoir of resilience, and that we have that ability to be there for each other and to really take care of our well-being and make sure that we are filling up that reservoir so that we can still continue to bounce back and navigate some of the unsettling things that we may yet have ahead of us. And so we'll talk first a little bit about what are some of the things that get in our way. What are some of the barriers that we encounter that inhibit or start to drain that reservoir, that leave us feeling a little bit exhausted, and that leave us feeling like we're a little bit sharp with our coworkers and our colleagues, or maybe we're a little bit more sharp with our children or the loved ones in our lives than we would like to be. Or maybe we just are lacking patience and we're not really showing up like the leader that we know that we can be in our lives and our personal lives and in our professional lives. And we're going to start out by talking about this concept called the two arrows or the two darts. And this is really fascinating stuff about one, the way your brain works, and about two, how we can be more perceptive and more aware so that we can help make some choices around those two arrows. So the concept is that inevitably in life, like things are going to happen, right? The pandemic is a perfect example of that. So the obstacles of life would be an example of the first arrow that comes at you in life, right? And so that might be the pandemic, that might be some financial insecurity, that might be health scares, and those are all just really related to what we're navigating right here, right now. It might be schooling complexities, daycare is closing, just all the myriad of things that we've been facing. And these things in life are inevitable. We know that they're just going to happen, right? We can't avoid some of the trials and tribulations of life. So that's what we call the first arrow. And then here's where the real magic happens. And here's where we have some power and some opportunity for a little bit of freedom, is that after that first arrow, inevitably, we have the opportunity to limit the number of what we call the second arrows. So a great example of that is in this example of the pandemic that we've been navigating, is that we have the opportunity to choose our response, and we can try to be have some wisdom around that response, have some patience with our response, show up as our best selves with that response, or sometimes we fall into that trap where we just react. And that's maybe when we're saying that snarky comment that we're not so proud of later, or that's maybe when we make a decision that we regret later on. And so this first part, the first arrow, is unavoidable. The second arrow, my friends, is mind made. Is the quiver of arrows that you may make up in your mind, the stories that you're telling yourself in reaction to that first arrow. And so you, my friends, have the power to choose your response. And this is incredibly liberating, right? So you can show up with fear, anxiety. You can be stressed out. You can lash out at others. You can be distracted, or you can turn to some coping mechanisms that aren't so healthy for you and that actually don't help to build back up that reservoir. But you also have this opportunity to choose something that is grounding for you, to show up with some things that actually fill your reservoir, to make a response that you choose mindfully, to show up with a little bit more patience, to show up with a little bit more kindness. Even when you're in line at the grocery store, things like that, people will pick up on those vibes. So we have the opportunity to notice when we might be in that reaction mode, take a couple of deep breaths and go back to that response mode, so that we have this incredible power to limit the quiver of arrows that we are sending at our own hearts and our own minds. And I love this quote by Viktor Frankl. And he is a famous author and a survivor of the Holocaust. And anyone that could survive an experience like that with this deep knowledge and this insight is just it's just incredible to me. And so his quote is, between stimulus and response, there's a space. And that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom. How powerful is that? We have the ability to limit that quiver of second arrows. And we know by studying the brain that you choose your focus. Every single day, every hour of the day, you are deciding what you're focusing on. So, as is inevitable at times, and we're all going to do this, and don't beat yourself up when you do, is that you're going to look at that scary stuff and you start to zero in on that with hyper focus, and you're going to turn that lens on that scary stuff. But guess what? At the same time, you have that opportunity to focus on all the things in your life that are going right. And we have that opportunity to be grateful for the things in our life that are friendships and the supportive community that we have. Like, each one of us is a different circumstance. And so it will be different for each one of us. And we have that power to choose our focus. And another really amazing thing about what we know about our brain is what you focus on expands. So if your focus is always on that negative and on that scary, guess what? That's what your reality is going to be. But at the same time, you have that ability to take a deep breath and to notice that there's positives and there's some good things. And we're not doing this in a Pollyanna way. We're not expecting rainbows, unicorns, and flowers and puppy dogs. It doesn't at all minimize the hardships and the really tough realities of our life. It's just a reminder that every single day you get to choose what you're focusing on, and that you're going to navigate those tough things in life. And sometimes we have to work really, really hard towards those things in life that are important to us, like creating an inclusive community where we all have an opportunity to succeed, and creating equity in our world. Those are incredibly important things that we're working towards. And when we remember the good things, that gives us that inner strength and fills up that reservoir again, so that we have that strength to work towards those things that are so important to us. And so let's talk a little bit about your brain, because I think the more that you understand, the more power you will have, and the more that this will make sense when you think about your reservoir of resilience. So we know that a part of our brain is really, really old, right? There's a part that was created back in, eons ago, where we had to constantly scan for danger, because we very likely could be attacked and, out on the Sahara by a lion. And so part of our brain is still really, really old. And so we are constantly scanning for danger. That's just kind of part of what it is, and part of how our brain works, part of being a human being. There's really interesting research that shows that we have something called a negativity bias. And so we immediately pick up on some of those negative things. We notice that when other people maybe have a sharp remark for us, we notice some of those in those the long lines that can for some reason get under our skin. So we have it's been described, and this is a great way, this really helps me to understand it, is that it's been described like positive things just flow off us like Teflon. Like, we barely take a moment to even soak it in. You may have gotten the most amazing compliment from a coworker or a client or a member of your family, and we don't take that moment to savor it. Oftentimes it just rolls right off us like Teflon. And yet the opposite side of that is that sometimes we hold on to the negative like Velcro. So if you've got 10 amazing compliments during the day, but one thing that wasn't so amazing, That's how your brain is wired to notice that, and you might hold on to that, right? Everyone is different, and all of our brains work a little bit differently. But you might notice that if you were in a performance review and you had all these amazing things about your strengths, and then there was that one thing that maybe you could work on, and you might have that tendency to ruminate and obsess over that one thing in a way that's not at all helpful to you and doesn't actually help you to be better in your job. So it's helpful to know that we are constantly scanning for those things that might get under our skin and that might, make us a little bit upset. And it can be the big things in life. It can also be some of those little things in life. So we have this knowledge now, and that you'll know. And if you think about Teflon for all the positive remarks, then take a moment to savor that positive remark. Take a moment to soak it in. I keep a folder full of thank you notes so that when I get a thank you note, I'm not just like, oh yeah, great thing. I like look at that thank you note, I read it, and I put it in that folder because I really want to soak in when people take the time to send me a thank you. Might be a thank you text, a thank you email, a verbal thank you, like savor that, soak that in. And we know that those good things are happening around us all the time. That cup of coffee in the morning, the lovely sunrise or the lovely sunset, spending time with people in your life that you love. Those things are happening to us every single day. So it's just remembering to soak it in and savor those good experiences. And so let's talk a little bit about some tools that we can use that you can walk away with starting today to start to fill up your reservoir. So those tools in your mind, if you're like visual, I'm a very visual learner, so I think about tools. So maybe your tools look like this, or maybe you resonate a little bit more with tools like this, or maybe this is what your tools look like when you think about tools, whatever works for you. We are going to talk about some of those tools that you can use to build up that resilience. The first tool is understanding the power of your mind. And so I'm sure you've heard this term of neuroplasticity. And it's amazing that our minds are malleable and that our experiences actually shape our brains. And it's incredibly important to think about. When you think about that, what you focus on expands, and that those experiences that you have shape the way that you see the world, and they actually can shape the structure of your brain. We know that neurons that fire together wire together. We also know that you have this incredible tool in your toolbox, and that's called mindfulness. And mindfulness enhances your resilience, and it's a trainable skill, which is the most exciting part. So we have the opportunity to enhance the skills and our mental agility. So think about like doing that bicep curl for your brain. And so there's lots of different ways to practice mindfulness, and there's lots and lots and lots of resources out there for you to dive in and figure out, how can I incorporate a little bit more presence and focus into my life? The basics of mindfulness is being aware and being present and noticing when your mind is wandering and then bringing it back again. You notice as your mind wanders and you bring it back again. And when you're doing that, you're actually strengthening that mental muscle. And so being in the moment can be incredibly helpful and incredibly powerful. You're noticing when you're in the moment, when you're present, that you might be filling up that quiver of second, third, and 100th arrows. And maybe you'll catch yourself and you'll stop at the second arrow. Or maybe you'll notice when you're about to snap at a coworker and you'll be able to take a deep breath and readjust and have a different perspective. Most helpful is when you have the opportunity to incorporate this into a daily practice. And so this might mean that it's 2 minutes a day that you take and that you breathe. Or maybe you have a longer practice. And the repetition is very helpful in building that mental muscle. And we all have access to this, which is the really exciting part. And there's a lot of amazing tools out there to help us build this into our daily practice. I've had a lot of success using apps that are like mindfulness-based apps. And there's lots of resources in our community in regards to tapping into your well-being and tapping into that mindfulness piece. And there's lots of resources that we have access to on the internet and in books. And so just know that you've got resources right at your fingertips to assist with training that mental muscle, helping your ability to be present, to be focused, to be less judgmental, to be less reactionary, to show up with a little bit more kindness, a little bit more wisdom. Another tool that I want to talk about is the power of your breath. So we did a little micro moment at the beginning of this practice, and you can utilize that at any time during your day where you take a moment to arrive. And it can be very valuable in different meetings. So if you're on a Zoom meeting or an in-person meeting and people are coming in and they might still be very focused on what they were doing before and they're not really present and they're still distracted by their email, it can be a moment for everyone to come together, be fully present, and you'll be amazed at how much more effective your meetings are and how sometimes your meetings will be that much shorter because you're all actually paying attention and you can move much more efficiently and effectively through your meeting agenda. There's also a lot of breath tools out there, and tapping into those tools can be amazingly powerful for your well-being. And it can assist with you being able to tap in to that rest and digest that you need in order to calm down the stress response. So when you have something that's a little bit stressful during the course of your day, that can build and build and build. And pretty soon your jaw is clenched, your shoulders are tight, and you might not even necessarily be aware of it. And you can use the power of your breath to tap into that rest and digest mode and calm and lower down that stress response. And one really powerful way to do that is called, well, I call it the 2-part breath. And so this it's super simple. And the key to this breath is that your exhale is twice as long as your inhale. So if you inhale for 4 breaths, you would exhale for 8 breaths. If you inhale for 2, exhale for 4. Inhale for 5, exhale for 10. You get the idea. So we're going to do that together right now. So we'll start together and I'll guide you through 2 cycles. And then I invite you to find the cycle that's best for your body because we're all a little bit different. And so find the cycle that feels like it's the best rhythm for your lungs. So again, I invite you to have eyes open, to have eyes closed, whatever feels most comfortable for you. We'll just take a moment, get comfortable, and then inhale, 2, 3, 4, pause, exhale, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Pause. Inhale. 2, 3, 4. Pause. Exhale. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And now continue a few cycles at your pace. Allow that belly to lift and your chest to expand. Maybe as you exhale, you're allowing your jaw to soften. You're softening tension at your shoulders. And one more breath cycle. And then returning back to the group. So returning back to our presentation. And I hope that within just that short cycle that you feel a little bit more calm, a little bit more relaxed. You've had that opportunity to tap back into the parasympathetic nervous system, that rest and digest mode. So valuable for your body to balance out that response mode, which is equally valuable. You obviously need that in your life and that sense of urgency at times, but it needs to get balanced out with that rest and digest. There are many, many different breath practices. And I think that yoga has been such a gift and has provided so much knowledge and really deep understanding of the power of breath. And so, again, just know that you have so many resources right at your fingertips to utilize to fill up that reservoir and understand how that breath can help you to move into rest and digest. And then another tool that we're going to talk about is the incredible power of nature. And there's been a lot of research about how beneficial nature is to our well-being. And it is really important that we have this innate connection, and our body wants this connection with nature. And we are so fortunate in the Northland to live in a place that we are surrounded by beauty and we are surrounded by nature. And we have the gift of being so close to trails, so close to lakes, so close to trees and flowers and plants. Like it truly is a gift. And I was listening to a podcast where they were asking the expert about, well, what if you live in a, like, you know, right in the middle of a concrete city and you don't necessarily have easy access? And she was saying that research is showing that if we even have a picture of nature, like on our screen, or a picture in our office, or you know wherever, that is incredibly valuable for our brain so that we can access that nature. I was out at over the weekend. I was out at Hawk Ridge, and the road is still closed, and so it's such an awesome and lovely place to go. And you can park and then walk up towards Hawk Ridge. And I walked all the way down to Lester River, and it's just so incredibly beautiful. And the water was just rushing, and so I took a moment to record it. I went and sat down by the rocks. And that rushing water was so calming, and it was so amazingly incredible. And it just reminded me of the things that I have that are so helpful to my well-being, and it really helps to fill up my reservoir of resilience. And we are truly, truly fortunate to just be surrounded by these things in the Northland. Another thing that is super valuable to us and really enhances your resilience is the power of connection. We are truly wired for connection. And that has been something that has been a real challenge. And some people have really noticed and been felt really strongly when we shifted over to working remotely, that they felt this lack of connection and felt a sense of isolation. And we know how important it is to reach out and to be connected with each other, and to be connected with the people that are important in your life. We know about the incredible power of laughter, and that even a smile, even when you smile, it's changing the chemistry of your brain. Like it is that powerful. So we know that during a pandemic, and that when our lives are turned upside down, and that we need to tap into that power of connection. It can be something as simple as if you're having a day where you're feeling isolated, that you send a text to someone, sending them a smile, or maybe you're sending them an email. Maybe you pick up the phone and you give a short phone call and turn it into what can you do maybe to make somebody else's day? And that can even bring a smile to your lips. So thinking about being savvy with how you're going to build in that connection and where you're feeling that loss of connection in your life. And I know that many organizations are looking at returning to the workplace. And so some of that might be slowly and gradually returning into having more people present. And some people are going to be working remotely. Potentially now that's like their job is going to be completely remote. Like I imagine that the workplace is going to be remarkably different, and that we may not go back to what things look like, pre-pandemic. And so knowing that you need this power, you need this connection, how can you fit that into your world? Like being involved in organizations that are important to you, being involved with things at your church, being involved in your community. Like what is it for you? We're all different. We all have unique interests. And just knowing that if you're starting to feel that little sense of isolation, that being proactive and reaching out for that connection is so incredibly important. And it can lift your spirits in remarkable ways and fill up that reservoir. We know that we are surrounded by positive experiences. There's all around you every day. There are little tiny things that you can grasp onto and savor: a sunset, a sunrise, that a bird singing out your window, that to savor those experiences. And then there's really big things in life that we can savor, like really great experiences. And sometimes we get like really distracted and we're not really present and we forget to savor those experiences. And so it's a constant reminder. And when you get lost, when you get distracted, don't beat yourself up, right? Just be like, oh, there I go again. And bring yourself back into the present moment. Maybe it's spending time with your family and you got distracted by your phone, or you're distracted by your to-do list or your agenda for the next day at work. Like it happens to all of us. And so it's just an opportunity. It's an invitation to return back and savor that moment, be in that present moment. We also know that we have the incredible power of gratitude and how important that is to our life. And there's many different ways that you can use gratitude and make this a part of your routine. And so some people love to journal. And so a gratitude journal may be your thing. Some people may just stop and appreciate the moment that they're in when they're doing something with loved ones, or they're spending time doing something that's really important to them. Or maybe in the morning, you wake up every morning and you think about, what am I grateful for? Or in the evening, before you go to bed, you're thinking about, gosh, what happened today? And what am I truly grateful for? What are 3 things that I'm grateful for? And that's the kind of that lingering thought of gratitude that you're taking into slumber with you. Like, what a way to orient for the next day is by letting your head hit the pillow, thinking about what you're grateful for. Because so often our minds will start to whirl and churn, and we think about some of those things that didn't go so right, the thing that we wish we would have said, but we forgot to say, the things that we didn't do. And this is an opportunity to hit that pause button and to reframe and to think about, wow, what went right today? What am I grateful for? And you can be creative. You can think of like the smallest of things that you can be grateful for. It doesn't have to be something monumental or epic. Sometimes it's those little things in life that make a life worth living. And so find out what works for you to build in gratitude into your routine, because we know that that fills up and enhances our ability to bounce back when the inevitable trials and tribulations of life come along. And so now we are going to have the opportunity to move into breakout rooms. And we are going to talk about in a group, we'll go into groups of 4, and we will talk about one thing that isn't serving you, something that you notice that you've done, like maybe you notice that you binge on Netflix, and that's what you do when you get super stressed out, or maybe that you're shopping for stuff that you don't need, and that's kind of been something that you notice that isn't such a great coping mechanism. And what's something that is working? Something that you can incorporate into your day-to-day routine. The most powerful thing about our about knowledge is actually operationalizing it. And so for you to take information and actually put it into place and immediately start utilizing those tips that can fill up your reservoir and to help you feel more resilient and help you to feel stronger to bounce back. And so we'll go into our breakout rooms for 6 minutes. This will give an opportunity, everyone will have at least a minute to talk about some of those things that you're not serving you and some of the things that are really helping you out or that you plan to incorporate into your life.
Figured I'd come join you, Stacy. So
Yeah, thank you.
yeah, it looks like we've got a few people not joined. And then I have it set with a 30-second warning, so it'll pop up and give them 30 seconds to pop.
Awesome. And I can't see the chat just the way I have my Zoom set up. So has there been any questions or anything?
There's just a couple comments, but not any questions yet.
Okay. Anything that I should?
Just Barb Bengston just said, thank you, the soak and save, great strategy, thank you. And then June Brenneman said, I use the Down Dog iPhone app, and she sets it for 15 to 20 minutes to and picks her practice style and music, and it's so great. And then Sean Florkey just said, I love the nap at the end too.
Awesome. And if you want to jump in and just like, say like, we've got a couple of comments that came in and
sure, no problem.
When everybody comes back, I'll invite people to share if they want. Sometimes they don't want to.
Yeah, of course, no problem.
And then you can say, and we had a couple of things or
okay.
Whatever. So I just have a couple slides after this.
Okay, that sounds good to me. And then at the end too, whatever your preference, I can jump back on, or if you would like to, you can end the program. I don't really have any closing housekeeping things. So whichever you choose is okay with me.
Okay, yeah, I'll invite you if that's okay.
Yeah, that's no problem at all.
Do you pause the recording?
And then what?
Did you pause the recording?
Oh, I can do that. Chris will edit it though.
Oh, she does?
Yeah, that's what
Oh,
it takes us a
nice.
few days. She does all the captions on everything and then
Oh,
she
nice.
edits. Yeah, so
she can take out this blank.
Yeah, yep. So she'll
Nice.
edit this part out and then add all the captions on. That's why it always takes us a few days to get it done because it takes a while for the captions to generate too, and then of course editing too. So
yeah,
that's
awesome.
She's very awesome. It's about 2.5 minutes left. It's funny with how you're saying how yoga, I wish we would have been taught this when we were little kids in school.
I agree.
And learned it right off the bat because I teach my daughter now and she's so good about, she's just 3, but already now she'll stop and take a deep breath if she's getting frustrated. I'm like, wish I would have known that.
Yeah, isn't it powerful?
Mm-hmm.
Like just that tiny little reset, how valuable that can be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And how we're not really taught that how to navigate this inevitable stressors of life. Like,
yeah. Yeah. Well, I'm glad now it's more mainstream and that people teach it or because I know my daycare does with the kids too, even.
that's so awesome.
Yeah.
There's nothing cuter than seeing a bunch of little kids like breathing, doing yoga.
Poses. Yeah.
Such a crack up. Oh my gosh, they're so cute.
Mm-hmm. She sent me a picture of them all sitting when they're namaste pose, and it was the cutest thing.
That's so cute.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so it looks like they'll be closing in about a minute here. Actually, I'll just go ahead and shut my camera off. But I'm here listening and watching, so
okay.
If there's anything that pops up, I can pop on.
Welcome back. Welcome back. So I'd love to take a moment for anyone that wants to share from their discussion. Completely optional, not required. But if anyone wants to share some tips, some tools, we have an opportunity to learn from one another on what we're doing that's working, what's helping. So feel free to unmute.
Hi, everyone. This is Charlie Adamczak. I guess something that we talked about in our breakout was gratefulness, like just being grateful for what we have and trying to use like the mindset of, it could be a lot worse, or, we're always thinking about the 1/5 of things that we don't have rather than the 4/5 of things that we do have. So that's what we talked about, and just always coming back to, how grateful we are to be where we're at and doing what we're doing.
Thank you, Charlie. So true. I like that 1/5 and 4/5. So true.
Well,
Thank you.
I appreciate that chance to connect, because as we were talking, you know, somebody brought up something that's not working, and I was like, that's not even on my radar, and it is not working. So just to have another perspective, because sugar was brought up, and I love sugar, and yeah, that it does have you know, it does have bad effects. So it was like, oh yeah, I didn't even think about that as something to change. So I think when we talk about things like this, we learn, even it gives us insight into ourselves. So thank you for that opportunity.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Barb.
We have a comment from Christy Erickson, and she says that the Calm app is working. Love it. Working through lunch is not serving me, but I have a plan.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that.
Stacy, this is Sean Plurkey. How are you?
I'm doing great.
I have a share that's just really odd. I saw a meme on Instagram that said, stop blaming everyone else for your problems. Pick one person and blame them for everything. And I picked my buddy John, and I talked to him. I'm like, dude, I'm going to blame you for everything, pandemic, whatever. And I've put it into practice, because it's weird, you know, like you're in a long line and you're pissed at everybody in front of you. And I think, oh no, this is John Raway's fault. And I think, oh, isn't it silly? And it gives me a chance to let go of being pissed at everybody in front of me in the line. So it's this cool mindful reframing. And I told John, you know, you get blamed for everything. He's like, I'm good with that.
Adding a little humor also into that reframing.
Yeah, it just kind of knocks you off of getting focused or bad focus.
Exactly. Thank you for sharing, Sean.
We had another comment from Jeff Jackson, and he said that time in nature really helps, but it's hard this time of year. I can't wait until the trails dry out.
Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes you have to get a little creative with our outdoor pursuits during the soggy time of year.
And then another comment from Gina, and she says, I play YouTube in the background of my computer with instrumental piano or other instrumental music with no words to distract me, but keeps me calm. Sometimes with nature sounds included. In the winter, I found the sound of a fire crackling.
Right. Yeah, I think music can be so powerful. And then talking about yoga, I brought up yoga. I just noticed Ann Maxwell is on the line with us, and she has so many valuable tools. I've learned so much from Ann. Sorry, didn't mean to put you on the spot. I just wanted to say that. I saw you.
Thank you, Stacy. It's great to be here. And we had a nice time in our breakout too. And just saying, even getting out for a minute, if you can take a walk around the block between meetings, is a great way to get some fresh air and be in connection with something greater than yourself. And to the one, Sean, what we think of at Yoga North is 99% of what we do is really more about us than it is about anyone else. So that idea of even blaming ourselves, inquiry to think about. Thanks, Stacy.
Yes, thank you. Oh, fun to share, and like Barb said, we learn so much from one another. Things that we might not even pick up on until we're in conversation. And just being in that conversation really helps us with that human connection.
There are a couple of other comments.
Oh, great.
Yeah, Sean Florkey shared looks like a YouTube link. It says, "This is Water" by David Foster Wallace's incredible mindfulness reframing. And it's a link for a YouTube video there. And then Barb Bengston said, "Stacy, what are yours?"
Oh, wow. Yeah, definitely nature, being outside. I try to get outside every single day. My dog loves to go for walks, so he is such a constant reminder. And he also thinks I'm awesome all the time, which is so amazing. It's like he's happy all the time and he thinks I'm a rock star. So that's very rejuvenating for me. Those are some of the things that really are important to filling up my reservoir. Lots and lots of things. So feel free to keep popping in some ideas and notes. And I've got my eye on the time here. So I want to make sure I'm respectful of your time and wrap this up so you can get back into your day. But a reminder that we really have that power to choose our focus. Our focus so much becomes our reality. And we know that where focus goes, energy flows. And I think framing it that way for me really helps me get out of that victim mindset that I can sometimes find myself in, and like poor me and why me, and really move back into that place where I know that I have got access to resources that I need, that I am resilient, and I do have that ability to bounce back. So thank you so much for joining us today. Feel free to drop any questions, to unmute, and any more shares. I'll invite Bailey to read any more comments. Otherwise, I welcome you to move back into your day. And I so appreciate you taking time out of your busy day to join us.
So Elizabeth Mean said, yes, our pets are amazing to have around all the time. I agree. And then Christy said, thank you, Stacy. Sean Florkey said, great stuff, I appreciate. Gina said, thank you. This has got me thinking about my tools. Judy says, thanks, Stacy. Great to see you again. More thank yous. Jeff says, thank you. That was great.
Thanks so much, everyone.
Yes, and thank you. It says, oh, thank you, Crystal. So yes, just to wrap things up too, I will be sending out probably later this week. It takes a little bit of time for video editing and then as well to get the captions added on there, but we will be sending out a link to this video along with the resources Stacy had provided as well. And then anything else that Stacy would like to provide, we'll include that in the recap email out to everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. And if there are no more questions at all, this will conclude the program, and everybody, I'll leave this using new tools, and it's perfect timing with the spring weather. So thank you, everybody, and have a wonderful day.